All right, let's talk about one of the absolute best ways for a beginner to get into investing here in the UK, the Exchange Traded Fund or ETF. If you've ever thought investing was just too complicated, stick around because we're going to demystify the whole thing right from the very beginning.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down what an ETF actually is. Then, we'll look at the good and the bad. After that, we'll compare it to buying a single stock. Then, the fun part, how to actually buy one. And we'll finish up with a super simple checklist so you can get started with confidence.
You know, if you've ever glanced at the world of investing, with all its crazy charts, weird jargon and constant noise, and just felt totally overwhelmed, well, you are definitely not alone. It can seem impossible. But what if I told you there was a really simple, really powerful way to cut through all of that?
Well, there is, and that brings us right into our first section. So, what is an ETF? Seriously, think of this as your launchpad into the world of investing. Okay, so here's the textbook definition. An exchange-traded fund is a fund that holds a bunch of different things, like stocks or bonds, and you can buy and sell it on the stock market, just like you would a single share of a company like Tesco or Rolls-Royce. But let's make that way, way simpler. All right, forget everything else for a second and just focus on this one idea, because it's the key to everything. An ETF is basically a shopping basket. When you buy one share of an ETF, you're not just buying one apple or one banana, you're buying the entire basket in one go.
So what kind of stuff can be in that basket? Well, just about anything. You could buy a basket that holds the top 100 companies in the UK. That's the FTSE 100. Or maybe you're more interested in the US market, so you buy a basket of the 500 biggest American companies, the S&P 500. You can even get baskets based on a theme you're excited about, like clean energy or artificial intelligence. It's incredibly flexible.
Okay, so we know what they are, but are they actually any good? Let's dive into our next section and take a really honest look at the good and the bad, the pros and the cons. This will help you see exactly why they become so popular.
Let's start with the good stuff. First up, instant diversification. This is the absolute magic of ETFs. With one click, your money is spread across hundreds of companies. This is huge because it means your risk is way lower. If one company in that basket has a terrible year, who cares? It's just a tiny part of the whole. They're also super cheap to own because most are passive, meaning they just track the market, no expensive manager needed. And the cherry on top for us in the UK, you can hold them in a stocks and shares ISA, which means your profits can be 100% tax-free. But let's be real, it's not perfect. The downside of all that safety is you're not going to get any of those crazy moonshot stories where a single stock goes up by 1,000%. An ETF is designed to give you the market average. It's not a lottery ticket. You're also still exposed to market risk. If the entire stock market has a bad year, your ETF is going to go down with it. And finally, while they are cheap, they aren't free. There's always a small annual fee you've got to pay. This brings us to a really important question that every new investor has to ask themselves. Do I buy an ETF, or do I try to find the next big thing and buy a single stock? I love this subtitle. Are you betting on one horse, or are you betting on the whole race?
And this quote just nails it. Trying to pick an individual stock that's going to be a huge winner is like trying to pick the one horse that's going to win the Grand National. If you get it right, wow, the payoff is massive. But if that horse stumbles, you could lose your entire bet. Buying an ETF is like betting that horse racing itself will still be popular next year. As long as the races are being run, you're probably going to do just fine.
Let's just put this side by side to make it crystal clear. When it comes to risk, ETFs are way, way lower. Effort? An ETF is minimal. You just have to believe in a market. A single stock? That takes hours and hours of deep research. And returns? An ETF aims for a steady, average return, while a single stock is either boom or bust. So here's the bottom line. For beginners, for people thinking long-term, ETFs are almost always the smarter place to start. Okay, enough of the theory. Let's get down to brass tacks. How do you actually go from watching this to owning your very first ETF? This is your practical, step-by-step guide, no fluff.
First things first, you need a place to actually buy them. This is called a platform or a broker, and here in the UK you've got loads of fantastic options. You've got platforms like Trading 212 and Free Trade, which are famous for their super easy to use apps and the fact you can start with just £1. You've got Vanguard's own platform, which is great if you just want to buy their legendary low-cost funds, and then you have the big guys like AJ Bell and Hargreaves Lansdown, which offer a full service with tons of research tools. And the actual process? It is so much simpler than you think. Seriously. Step 1, you choose your account. Like we said, the stocks and shares ISA is usually the best bet for those tax-free gains.
Step 2, you register your details. 3, you pop some money in. 4, you search for the ETF you want. And step 5, you click buy. Boom. That's it, you're an investor.
Now, when you go to sign up, they are going to ask for a few things, so just have them ready. You'll need your UK bank account details, your national insurance number, and some photo ID, like a passport or a driving license. Don't worry, this is totally standard for any regulated financial company in the UK. It's just to keep everything safe and secure.
Right, we are in the home stretch now. For our final section, let's pull everything we've talked about into one simple checklist. These are the key things you need to remember, and, maybe even more importantly, the common beginner mistakes you absolutely want to avoid. So please, try to avoid these classic blunders. First, don't just chase after some hot trend you see on social media. Second, don't panic and sell everything when the market has a bad week. That's normal. Third, never, ever invest money that you're going to need in the next few years. And finally, stick to the simple stuff. The whole point is to buy and hold for the long term, not to overtrade or get tangled up in complicated products.
And there you have it, your complete guide to getting started with ETFs. We've gone all the way from what is this thing to how can I own one? So I'll just leave you with this final question to chew on. Forget all the noise. Forget the charts. What's the first market you truly believe in for the long haul? Is it the UK, the US, the whole world? Whatever your answer is, well, that's your starting point.